Hey guys, it's the Uniformed Historian. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day to spend some time with me again. Today, I'm going to be making a video that I was hoping that I wouldn't have to make for a very long time. As I'm sure you all are aware by now, my dad died on April 22nd of this year at his home in Charleston after a very short and somewhat unexpected illness. Per my dad's wishes, he did not want a funeral because he really wasn't much of a churchgoer, and the way he put it, he did not want somebody that didn't know him standing over his casket talking about what a great person he was. And that's why I'm respecting his wishes, and we did not have a funeral. But he did not say that I couldn't talk about him. So sit down, grab yourself a tall glass of tea or something, and sit back, because I'm going to talk about my dad today, because I did know him. And I can talk about what a good person he was because I knew him. He was my dad. One of the greatest honors of my life was to call him my dad. And I'm sorry, I'm going to try to get through this without falling apart on you guys today, so if you'll just bear with me, we'll get through this together. My dad was born March 8th, 1951, in Richmond, Virginia. He was the son of Truman C. Jones and Dorothy Maxine Wooten Jones. We Pawpaw and Mawmaw. You'll hear me call them through the rest of this video. My dad was really a smart guy. One of the smartest men I've ever had the honor of knowing. One time when I was riding in the car with him, I flat out asked him one day, because I was trying to decide what did I want to do with my life, and I said, "Dad, what made you become a doctor? Did something inspire you?" And his reply was pretty nonchalant. He was like, "Oh, I had to do something." Okay, so you just became a doctor? What else could you just do? Be a rocket scientist? You could just be an astronaut? You could just be a nuclear physicist? What do you mean just had to do something? That's just how smart he was. He could have done anything he put his mind to, but that's what he decided his passion was helping people. And so he became a doctor, an OBGYN to be exact. That was his specialty. He delivered babies for a number of years. And one of my favorite things about my dad when I was growing up was he always wore what appeared to be the same clothing all the time. He always wore a blue shirt, brown pants, blue socks, brown shoes, and a brown belt, of course. And he would change his ties out, but that's about as creative as he got with that. And it took me a long time to figure out why that was. It just wasn't something that ever really, something I didn't really think about too much. But then it dawned on me one day, the reason that he always did that was he delivered babies. So he was getting a call out, 1, 2 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, 6 in the morning. Whenever he was getting this call out, he wanted to know that if he was woken up, he would match. So if you walked into his closet, like I did on many occasions helping with the laundry and such, you would just see racks of like 10 or 12 blue shirts, 10 or 12 pairs of brown pants, his brown shoes. It was hilarious. And I'll tell you what, the first time I saw him wear anything other than blue and brown, I about flipped. I about hit the ceiling. I must have hit the ceiling shooting up out of that chair when I saw him come down the stairs in that green polo shirt the first time. I will never forget that. But he decided it was just time for a change. I was, I don't know, 18 at the time. So imagine going 18 years never seeing anything but blue and brown, and then all of a sudden somebody just walks in a green shirt. Yeah, you're going to do a double take or 12. But at the time, I could still fit into some of his clothing, so I kept a couple of his shirts and his pants back, and he wanted to donate the rest to Goodwill or whatever. So that's what he did. But um, one of my first jobs was actually working in my dad's office, and I decided one day that I was going to wear one of his blue shirts and brown pants into the office, and I there was this little old lady out in the waiting room, and I was working on a chart or paperwork, something like that. And she just walks up to me and starts talking about this problem she's having and this medicine she's on, and just on and on and on. And I really didn't want to be rude and interrupt her. So, oh, yeah, absolutely. I know what you're talking about. Uh huh. Yeah, totally. And I let her go on about all these problems for a few minutes. And when she was done, and I was confident that she was done, I said, "Well, ma'am, I'll tell you, I'm not a doctor. I'm not licensed to help with anything like this. But if you'll sign in here, I will have Dr. Jones, my dad, look at you here in a few minutes." And her eyes got as big as saucers. "Oh my gosh, you look just like him!" It was hilarious. Gosh, Rhonda, one of the people I worked with at the office, she lost it. I was dying laughing. Um, yeah, but I was told on more than one occasion that I looked like my dad. And I don't know, sometimes when I turn my head a certain way, I sort of see it, but a lot more people say I look like my mom. But a lot of his patients, that's who they knew, and that's what they saw in me because of what they knew of him. And yeah, it was just it was always fun working in my dad's office, and he loved his patients. And from what I gather in the medical community, he was nothing short of a rock star, based on the testimonies and the stories that I've been reading, the phone calls and the text messages I've been getting about him. I knew he was a respected physician, and I knew that he was well liked, but I don't guess it ever really registered in my mind just how loved he was. And it just makes me that much more proud to call him my dad. And my dad had a hobby, photography, digital photography. And if you get a chance, go check out some of his work. The website's still up, ronjonesphotography.com. Um, I don't think he ever left the house without his camera. It was just as much a part of him as his head or his arms or his legs. I mean, really, you think I'm kidding? I never saw him outside the house without his camera unless he was, cutting the fields on a tractor, or, cutting grass, something along those lines. But if he left home, he took that camera with him, and he got some amazing shots. And my dad might be the single biggest influence in how I got to be the historian that I am today. My dad was probably one of the biggest influences in me becoming a Civil War reenactor, but it was a long road getting there. One of the earliest examples of how he influenced my interest in history was this case of relics that you see behind me. I was about 7 years old, and he caught me looking through the relics, and he let me pick one out. And I kept it. It was just a round shot, is what they call it. Just a circular, round lead ball. It was probably a Confederate round for a smoothbore weapon. And that's how I really began to study the Civil Wars, because Dad gave me a piece of it that his dad found. My pawpaw was the relic hunter and found all of these. And he gave my dad, his display case, and eventually Papa would go on to give me my own display case on one of our many trips down to Richmond to see Papa. Richmond isn't exactly close to Jackson County, West Virginia, so we only went down a couple times a year. But we always tried to time it so that it would coincide with a Civil War relic show or something of the equivalent. And Papa would always send Dad and I home with a couple of relics from his latest finds, or we might find something at the show that we just couldn't live without, and we bring something really cool home from the show. Now, one time, Papa and Dad and I think my mom went, and maybe my mom. I don't know because I was too young at the time to really go. It was like an adult's trip, but they went down to Georgia, and my pawpaw picked it out, and my dad bought it. Bought me my first kepi, and my mom picked out the cavalry insignia because she thought that it looked cool and thought I would like it. And I don't think this hat left my head for years after he got me that. I don't think there's a single spot on here that's the original collar even. But my dad was always encouraging my interest in history. A lot of dads out there, would have been, oh, why can't you be a normal kid and, whatever, do drugs, be interested in girls, go out and, drink and party, or whatever it is that the normal kids, were always interested in. But no, my dad did not try to extinguish the flame that he and my pawpaw had started. He fanned it. He threw kerosene on the flame. I mean, he really encouraged me and helped me along in my studies of the Civil War. Whether it was giving me relics, taking me to my first reenactment at Hurricane, West Virginia, where I joined up with the 36th Virginia Infantry for the very first time, and that took me down a long, winding road. Made a lot of friendships along the way. When I was in 4th grade, I did a social studies project on General Stonewall Jackson of the Confederate Army, and after I got a blue ribbon at the county level, my dad actually took me to a bookstore that is no longer standing. I don't believe it's in business anymore, but there was an author, Clint Johnson, who had just written a book on Stonewall Jackson. And my dad took me to go meet him, and he actually signed the book for me. And that was just another way that my dad was always supporting my interests. Most kids are out there playing sports or things of that nature, and dads will usually get, the team shirt or a team hat or something of that nature. Well, to show his support for me out on the field, my dad got a kepi, and he would wear that around to take photos. And people would ask him, hey, are you a Civil War reenactor? And he would, no, I'm wearing this for my son. He's out there with the 36th Virginia Infantry. So that's just another way that my dad was always supportive of me. He always supported me. Something else you guys might not know about my dad that I do know, he enjoyed playing chess. And he's actually the one who taught me how to play chess. And he also got me a Civil War chess set for my birthday one year. And even though I made him sweat a couple of times, I was never able to actually beat him at a chess game. He just had too much experience on me. I never did defeat him at a chess game. Something else that people might not realize, my dad also enjoyed woodworking, and when I was about 12, 13 years old, he got me started in the hobby of woodworking, and it's something that I continue to this day. It still seems so surreal that he's not here. It's just so odd not being able to pick up the phone and tell him when I find something, or when I learn something about one of our relics. But I know that he's up there with Pawpaw now. I know that he's up there and they're having a blast. My dad was only sick for a short time, which I'm thankful for, that it was not a prolonged illness and he didn't suffer any longer than he truly had to. There is one person that I want to give a very special shout out to. Like I said earlier in this video, there are so many people that I could give a shout out to, but I would be here hours just listing people. But one person who truly earned my respect and my appreciation was his hospice nurse, Cheryl. From what I've been told by my mom, from the things that my dad told me, she was there for everything. And she really helped take care of my dad in his final days. And Cheryl, if you're watching this, I cannot express how grateful I am to you. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for helping take care of my dad when he needed it the most. I was at my dad's side when he died. That was actually the day I met Cheryl. I'd never actually met her before then. Um, he had asked me, you know, basically not to come a few times because he just wasn't feeling up to visitors, and because of that, Cheryl and I probably had a lot of misses, because she would go on certain days and I would go on other days. But I finally met her the day that he actually passed, and she was an absolute sweetheart. She helped take care of everything up until the funeral home showed up to take him. The uniformed historian is working on one last very special event for my dad. I will give you guys the details when I have them finalized. I don't want to count eggs before they hatch. It's still very much in the works. I still have to talk to some people and make some arrangements. But I've got one more special project in mind. If you all want to honor my dad's memory in the meantime, though, my mom and the family have asked donations to be made to hospice care in Charleston, West Virginia, in his memory, so that the amazing people like Cheryl and the people at the Hubbard Hospice House can make other people's lives as easy as they made ours in a really tough time. So if you want to make a donation in memory of Ronald S. Jones, that would be fantastic, and I would very greatly appreciate that. I will keep you up to date on the event that I am planning for my dad at a later time. So, I can't believe I actually made it through this whole thing without totally falling apart. So, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. I will see you all at the next Uniformed Historian site, as I will be resuming production again. It's been a couple of weeks, but I want to get back in the field and get to talking about history. So, I love you guys. Take care. God bless, and I will see you at the next Uniformed Historian site.